back to GearWire.com. We are at the Record Plant in Hollywood, or are we in Los Angeles?
You're technically, I think, in Hollywood. Well, we're saying Los Angeles, but close enough.
We are in, which studio is this?
This is SSL4.
That's the name of the studio?
Yes, that's the name of the studio. Record Plant SSL4, I guess, would be the technical name of the studio. It's got our 80 input J in our biggest tracking room out in the back there, so which you can't see through the dark light.
Do you customize your board at all, or is it pretty much all how it came?
This was just a stock J-series console. It's one of the earlier ones that was put out, but still kicking along pretty good, so can't complain.
What's the signal path like here? What type of compressors and limiters are you running?
A lot of people use, the outboard gear, a lot of people use the old LA2s, 1176s. We still use a lot of Neve pre's for tracking instruments and that sorts of thing. The console pre's, when people are trying to track, really, really large stuff and they need tons and tons of pre's, we'll still use the console pre's, but most people want to have a Neve or something on the input chain, so.
It's always good to have. What type of EQs are you using?
EQ-wise, API stuff, a lot of the console stuff. We're seeing a lot of plug-in stuff right now, actually. We're seeing a lot of people using the Waves emulation of the SSL that's sitting in front of them, which still baffles me sometimes, but that's okay. And we're primarily still, right now, just recording all the Pro Tools. So
okay. Now I noticed Record Plant's been around for how long?
Since New York, I think 40 years.
40 years? Okay. So, because I know some of the plaques on the walls, and they seemed all more recent. Kanye West, Mariah Carey, Slayer.
Slayer, yes, you saw the Slayer plaque.
It was really funny because I saw like Michael Bolton, Mariah Carey, and then Slayer. It was awesome.
You gotta keep it diverse.
Oh, I know.
Slayer has its place.
Mariah Carey with Slayer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there we go.
We're doing a duet next week. So, but they keep the plaques kind of diverse. Obviously, I don't want to just have Michael Bolton all the way down the hallway. That's not gonna.
Who are some of the other major people who've recorded here?
Recently we get the Black Eyed Peas have done a lot of their work here. Ron Fair has done a ton of his work here in all of his productions. Nicole Scherzinger is doing her album here as we speak, which hasn't come out yet. What are the other big ones recently? Luis Miguel, is doing his vocal tracking here currently for his next record, so that should be good. That's all I can think of currently, but yeah.
Let's talk about what you use to actually do the recording here. Are you using Pro Tools, or what are you running?
Yeah, we're 98% Pro Tools at this point.
What's the other 2%?
The other 2% is probably 2-inch when it's required, and that's usually just live band tracking.
And see, that's an interesting 180 from where we were at down the road at Bernie Grunman and Ocean Wave, because they're doing everything, for the most part, analog. They use Pro Tools for bouncing to CD and DVD audio, but for most of it, they're doing analog. So
yeah, we've seen a huge switch in just the last 5 years, basically, from when you would walk into a session and you would see every fader up, every small fader up, every channel of the console is being used, to a very much more minimal kind of use the console as pre's and EQs and get into Pro Tools, and kind of a lot of people are doing their mixing in the box. And I don't think of a lot of it as because a lot of people necessarily want to all the time, but it's the simplicity factor of when they're working with a guy like Pharrell or something and they're working on 5 mixes at a time and he says, okay, we're going to this song now. It's like doing a recall for an hour and a half. You'd be doing recalls for 6 hours a day, which is like absolutely not.
It's chaos.
It's not going to work out. So a lot of it's just the simplicity factor, I think, for a lot of people. And the plugins have gotten to sound pretty decent at this point. So
now, what are some of the difficulties that come along with that? Obviously switching over from digital to analog can create a lot of different problems. What are some of the problems you've noticed with the sound, or are there any?
The problems with the early blackface, the 888s and stuff, of course, everyone was like, that sounds like an 888. The 192s sound great. A lot of people, if they don't like the 192s, they use Apogees or some other converter in place of that. And we've had no problems with that. The biggest portion of digital world is keeping up with the software and keeping up with the versions and making sure your firmware is working with, the firmware of other boxes, especially with stuff like Apogee and stuff that's not very host to Pro Tools and is kind of finicky at that point. But that's the biggest problem with the digital world. So,
okay, well, let's move on to the actual recording room, I guess.
Yeah.